anyone else really starting to regret maybe sort of not taking the old conspiracy theorists from years ago too seriously. I mean, you talk about what's going on right now, and you feel like the craziest person, like that somebody needs to lock this person up. That's the problem with it. It's so out there that how could this be true? I mean, the whole Epstein thing, pretty obvious. Again, I'll state first, everything I say on this is my opinion. These are my beliefs. This is my opinion, my views. Epstein and Maxwell work for Israel. Okay, Israel buys and blackmails our politicians. If they're not bought, they're blackmailed or threatened. And if they're not, sometimes something happens to them. Trump, obviously, and I need some of you to come to terms with this. There's far too few people accepting this. Okay? Trump is an offender. Okay, I don't know what I can get away with on here. He's a violent offender. Serial. Repeated. And I didn't always think that. I never liked him. Even since I was a little kid. But I didn't think he was that. It's not that I thought he was morally better than that. It's that I just didn't think it was his thing. Obviously, and you're going to have to come to terms with this too. This should be even easier to come to terms with. He's got no problem with people who do that. Whatever they want to do, the children, women, whatever, he does not care. That's the first thing. That's obvious. That is completely undeniable. The evidence is right there. You don't even have to, you can just Google it. Take 5 minutes Googling it. How many of people that has worked with him, been business partners with him, been close with him, including the Clintons, who have had these accusations against them. Not to mention the fact he's been accused a whole lot. I mean, sometimes you can judge people by the company they keep. When it keeps happening, how many of your friends and associates are offenders? Seriously, do a quick tally. You know how many is for me? 0. None. Not a single one. So how does that happen? He's not very put off by it. And he lies to people's face. It's scary. It's scary because the lies he's telling, it's like, you know that's not true. Forget what the Democrats are saying. Let's just talk about reality. This is factually incorrect. He could tell you that he's going to build a building out of water and people would believe it. But that's what's going on with them. Israel is commanding everything that this country does. Not to mention, I mean, this government is evil enough on its own. But the whole Venezuela and Cuba thing, you notice anybody that's got any issue, doesn't like Israel, becomes a target. They're trying to completely take over. People are losing their freedoms. Ron Paul talked about this years ago. You got less and less freedom. Fewer and fewer rights. And it's funny that the right wing, who I thought was paying a little too much attention to that, has completely went to sleep. It's no wonder they hate the word woke. They're asleep. You know, and look at the other things. Look what else is coming out in the Epstein files. There's mentions of, let's just say it puts a little bit, makes you think a little bit about 9/11 a little bit. It makes you think a little bit about the whole COVID thing. And, you know, there's a lot of, I don't think people go far enough really, at least looking at possibilities. Just because you think of crazy ideas doesn't mean you believe them. But sometimes they do turn out to be true. It's good to sort of flex your mind. Like, there's people thinking that, oh, well, part of the thing with COVID is they want to see what they could get away with people. That could they lock them down because they closed down businesses, which incidentally, that was part of what I think was the plan, is to kill mom and pop places. The big companies did just fine. Of course they did. But it killed small businesses. It made poor people poorer. But a lot of people theorize they're trying to see what they can get away with. See if they could, how in lockstep people were. How quickly they could get them to just put themselves up like good little sheep. And then, of course, you had the shots doing what they did or not doing what they did. And people have their theories about that. But, you could have different theories on that. Like a good example would be if there is anything, some dangerous pandemic that comes out, now people, it's like crying wolf. Now people aren't going to take it seriously. What if they really did need a shelter in place? They're not going to do it anymore. What if some shot comes out that is going to prevent it, but it doesn't? What if the virus was as dangerous or even more dangerous than they say it was, but the shot is too, so they get you both ends? It's worth thinking about. People won't even think about things these days. And again, that's all from the same source. With this ranting lunatic, I've always hated these State of the Union things. Let me summarize for you. They're all lies. Every single one of them has been a lie. At least in my lifetime, it's completely a lie. And all you'd have to do, forget now. Cut it off if you need to. Start, since it's going to be a bias, it's going to be an issue. You could take any section of time. Take from 1980 to 1990. Take from 1990 to 2000. And you tell me if the beginning of that decade, people were better off or worse off than they were at the end of that decade. Take all the time you need on that. Things are getting worse. Worse and worse and worse. And they keep talking about the economy. And it's nonsense. It's a word that doesn't mean anything to real people. It doesn't. It's nonsense. It's something they brag on, and then people, repeat it. It's just like these. It's another thing that's unsettling is how quickly people are repeating catchphrases. Trump derangement syndrome. And I didn't know this. I had to see, where did that come from? I didn't know this because I'm not subject to these catchphrases. It actually started out, from what I can tell, Charles Krautheimer, who's died now. He's a conservative commentator of some sort. And it was Bush derangement syndrome. And then somebody, of course, they thought that was ludicrous until they decided to use it, and it became Obama derangement syndrome. And now it's Trump derangement syndrome, and nobody even remembers that other stuff because people have been turned into zombies. It's terrifying. I hope it's not as bad as it looks on social media. It looks really bad. They say that, what was the other one? Panicking. Don't be a panicking. How are people this dumb? I don't understand how somebody can throw a phrase out. I can remember doing this when I was a little kid, watching the Ninja Turtles, because I was a little kid. It's weird when it's somebody my age or older. Somebody says a line, and they're all of a sudden just barking like a dog, repeating it. And I know it's not just political things. They were doing it with that stupid Jersey Shore show. There's people repeating lines off of that didn't even make any sense. Didn't even have anything to do with their life. So I don't know if there's any kind of crazy conspiracy theories about people being brainwashed or something like that, but people are ripe for it, that's for sure. Because there's nothing there. There's nothing between people's ears anymore. It's got a conversation. I expect to hear something back. Former co-worker is another guy talking. I don't know if he's on his friends list. I don't know him. But supposedly, and I'm not going to watch it, but supposedly there's a little gimmick that Trump did about trying to get people to stand up if they support Americans over illegals. And that makes me so mad when somebody says illegals. Dehumanizing, that's what that is. If you say that, you're a racist. I'm not talking about being against, people being here illegally. We can debate that on another video. I don't know. But just to dehumanize them. I mean, I'm consistent on that. I always hated it when men referred to women as blondes or something like that. And since I was a little kid, it always bothered me. It's like, why aren't you saying woman? Why are you saying blonde? Because you don't say, there's a man over there that's got blonde hair. You don't say that blonde over there. I always thought that was sort of a sexist thing. And the people saying illegals, especially in this area, are racist. They are. It won't take you too long to figure that out. They may not be the worst racists, but they've got prejudices. They've got, they don't see people as exactly equal. Best thing you can hope for is they see Americans as equal, mostly, somewhat close, and then hate everybody outside of America. That's not good either. But it was a little gimmick that Trump did. It's just a gimmick. I wouldn't have participated either. And I'm not defending the Democrats, but that's nonsense. What does that even mean? But his staunchest supporters will just jump right on that. And that's going on. This guy's complaining about illegals and them not standing up there with the old Epstein thing going on. And let me tell you something, because you're not going to see it on mainstream media. And there's a lot of things that can be faked, I assure you. What's going on, what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, West Bank and Gaza, what they've been doing to the Arab people all around them, and the Epstein files, what's happened to women and children in that. It's the worst stuff any human being could ever imagine. I used to say that, I've watched a lot of things about serial killers and stuff like that. And I used to put up there close to the top Albert Fish. And rather than get into detail, if anybody asked me about him, as I would say, he did the worst stuff you could possibly fathom. The worst stuff you could fathom. He's about the worst of the worst. At least pretty close to it. Just imagine the most horrible things you can imagine. He did it. And Israel and the whole Epstein organization makes him look like a Boy Scout. It's not even close. Although he would definitely want to join right in. It would be perfect for him. So it just shows you most serial killers don't even come close to those people. Israel, again, this is my opinion. These are my views. I feel Israel is a colony of offenders, mass murderers, thieves, organ thieves, victimizers of children. And I say that because they are. There's evidence. A lot of this stuff is on video. A lot of it they admit to because they're proud of it. Nothing ever happens to them. If you're a follower of them, you still follow them like a good little dog because you're asleep, because you don't want to be woke. I don't know how much crazier things can possibly get. But we need to get our priorities in check. If you're still supporting these people, and I've said it on multiple videos and I stand by it, do not support anyone who is supporting Israel. They should be suspicious to you. That should be a dead giveaway that there's a problem. Hey, if nothing else, leaving all this aside, everything else aside, What's the favoritism? Isn't that strange? I've not heard of favoritism towards Ireland or Scotland or England or India or Spain or France or anybody else. Why is it just that place? You don't think that's a little strange? Ask yourself that. Isn't that unusual? Isn't that strange? They fall on top of themselves and all over themselves and trip and slobber and everything else, trying to say how wonderful and great Israel is. That's a little strange. They don't talk about any of the states that way. Isn't that weird? Isn't that strange? Seriously, listen to a lot of these politicians, and you count how many times they say wonderful things about Israel and gigantic funding for Israel, and then compare that to how they talk about any state, including the one they live in or they're from or they govern or whatever. They don't. And now, throw this detail in. You have more people pushing for making it a charging people for murder if they have an abortion. Now, here's the thing. I'm not thrilled with the whole abortion thing, but common sense tells you it's out of my jurisdiction. It's out of anybody's. It's when it resides in somebody else's body, it's not your business. It's not your choice. This is common sense. You can be against it all you want. There's nothing you can do about it. Isn't that common sense to you? As a pregnant woman, what do? You run and just grab her arm, come back here with that other something that's inside you? You can't do that. And if nothing else, look where it's going to lead. Okay, if that's illegal, that's murder. Somebody has an abortion. Okay. Well then, just like with orthodox, regular old murder, people are going to have to get creative. So obviously, if they're going to get charged with murder, they're not going to go to some clinic. They're going to do something at home. Well, then that's going to be investigated. In fact, any miscarriage will have to be a murder investigation. And then how many different ways could she be blamed for the miscarriage? I mean, she couldn't she? Maybe she jumped around too much. What'd she do? Are we sure she didn't punch herself in the stomach or throw herself down some stairs or something like that? I'm sorry to be dark, but come on. And then if you really want to get ahead of it, because this would end up happening, it would evolve, women would stop making it public that they were pregnant. Well, how do you get ahead of that? You're going to have to make random checkups. And if you rewind back when the old COVID thing was going on, they tried to get people mandated to take the shots. And they, somewhere, I think it was in Canada, but it was thought about in the United States also. It's been sort of floated for a long time. To have like a, what do they call it? They call it a vaccine passport or something like that. Anyway, it had all the medical stuff on it. And by the way, any shot that you have, any medical report is going to have on it if somebody's pregnant or not. And they ask you all kinds of questions. But that's relevant if you're going to get some kind of shot. So they make things like that mandatory. That's what kills me. People didn't catch on. That was the government getting two different sets of people to sell out body autonomy. They did it with abortion, with the Republicans, and they did it with the so-called vaccine with the Democrats. And they all were all for it, and we're even sharing the same memes back and forth. Never realizing they're actually working hand in hand to cause people to lose every bit of their freedom, even over their own bodies. So that's the direction we're headed. And they're taking strides towards getting rid of a good bit of the amendments. I think Republican voting people are about to be very surprised what happens under Republicans regarding the Second Amendment. They're already chewing away at the First Amendment. They think they're free because they can say hateful things to people. Oh, that's tolerated. Say it about Israel and see what happens. You think you're free? You think you got freedom of speech? Burn one of their flags and see what happens. They got organizations that'll come after you and try to get you fired. Try to ruin your life. Try to destroy you. And how is that allowed? So again, it's about time people start working together. It's us versus them. This Republican-Democrat nonsense needs to stop. Both of those parties need collapsed entirely. Entirely. They cannot be trusted anymore. Especially if they're getting money from or giving money to Israel. You want to talk about America for America and America first? Let's friggin' do it. And if you do want to get a little bit more open-minded, how are the people on our continent not higher priority than Israel? Why can't we help Mexicans and Guatemalans and people like that? Why have we got to treat them like real aliens, and then people on the other side of the world, they're our buddies? I can't understand that, how they're not our allies, but those freaks over there are. And I understand it's not all of them, but with the stuff that Trump said about the Mexican people during before he even got elected the first time, that was ridiculous. Not to mention the cartels obviously get weapons from the United States. I don't know if you've heard that yet. Oh yeah, the Mexican government took down a cartel, and their weapons, all their weapons, either came from the United States or Israel. Isn't that curious? So please start working together. I say again, love your neighbor, not your government. Your government is not your friend. They're not. They're not your friend. They're not your ally. I mean, they could be, but they're not and haven't been. You don't have any enemy in this country worse than them. I would go so far as there's no enemy on the planet worse than your own government here in the United States. Again, this is my opinion. It's my belief. I'm not stating this as a fact. This is my belief. Work together. Love your neighbors. Take care of the people around you. Shop local businesses. Stop buying new cars. Stop buying a lot of new things. Pay off your debts. Work together. We can make a real community here. We really can. We can unite. It's not nothing. This isn't as complicated as people are making it. Vote them all out. Stop treating your co-workers, your relatives, your neighbors, people in your city like garbage while uplifting these people up there. Because it is a stretch to even call them people at this point. I would advise you to go look some of this stuff up yourself, but I don't even have kids. And it's bad. It's really bad. Much as I want you to believe it, I couldn't show it to you. I couldn't do that to you. Truth is stranger than fiction. So again, your friends, the real America, is the people here. It's not the government. And these people on the other side of the world need to understand that these horrible things that's going on, it's not us, it's the government. And it's this government being controlled by another government. And once those get taken care of, there'll be peace in the entire planet. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Hopefully I won't get a knock on the door.